Alright everyone, we start off today talking about Lin Wood because depending on whether you sort of trust the plan or not, he's either having a massive, total breakdown on Twitter, or he's setting the stage for an 11th hour onslaught in the establishment. I'm just going to analyze this a little bit. Some of the things he's saying, they sound kooky, but they do tie into things that are a little mysterious, like Epstein, who did not kill himself, and I think that we're mostly aware of this fact. Even most Democrats, I don't think, believe that Epstein killed himself. That being said, first and foremost, and I hate having to do this, but if you would share the link of this video out if you intend to watch me on YouTube, that's appreciated because I am effectively abused by YouTube at this point because they put all the priority creators ahead of independent ones with news and politics, which means it's hard for people to find the material usually. Secondly, there'll be a pinned comment on YouTube and links in the description cross-platform to 4 other video sites that I use, and I put everything on those as well. You should join me on one or more of them because none of them algorithmically demote me, and none of them have adpocalypse and shit like that. But anyway, Lin Wood, who you'll know as the lawyer for Kyle Kulinski, number 1, Nick Sandman, number 2. Relatively well-known, well-respected individual. He's on Twitter. He doesn't have a blue check mark because Jack Dorsey obviously doesn't want to endorse anyone with views outside of what he considers the corporate lamestream. He is now saying, and he's a big-time Trump fan, now saying that he has, I guess, encrypted files that point to a network of human trafficking. It involves Jeffrey Epstein. It involves numerous judges and politicians. And what he's saying is that it explains their behavior, that there's a blackmail scheme going on involving numerous U.S. officials, and that this explains the honk-honk, totally fair election results and all of their convolutions that we saw in November. Now, I am of the opinion, and this is just my belief, I am of the opinion that the concept that they're being blackmailed for various purposes is correct. We've seen to that effect, and I don't believe that this is coincidental, by the way. We got reports that Swalwell, just one of a number of Democrats, was banging a Chinese spy. He has faced absolutely no journalistic pressure to explain this. He has faced no probe. He has faced no condemnation. In no way has it even significantly been discussed past the first day of breaking news. That is not normal. We've had the CCP leak, which showed that 1.8 million Chinese state infiltrators had gotten into Western academia, which that's no-brainer. Commies in academia, I'm so surprised. Various corporations, levels of government, and everything else. We have all these things. And yet, mysteriously, the MSM and the political lamestream don't talk about them. They refuse to really bring them up. If you are suggesting, Lin Wood or anyone else, that human trafficking in some cases was used in order to gain blackmail, that's believable. To tell the truth, the idea that Epstein would lure people to his island and say, hey, I've got all these great girls there, and, you're going to have fun, no wives allowed. Clinton or whoever goes there, Spacey, all the others that traveled repeatedly to the island. Stephen Hawking, oddly enough, was there at one point. I have a feeling that he can't get it up because he was paralyzed from the neck down, so I don't think we have to worry about him being a pedophile or something. You go there, and he says, oh yeah, the girls will take care of you. And you go to your room, and they get you intoxicated, and then they get you on video with someone who looks like they're probably mature, but it turns out they're just an overdeveloped 14-year-old or something. That is believable. He had the means. We know he was involved with human trafficking. He certainly didn't kill himself under the most mysterious goddamn circumstances you could ever possibly fucking hope for. The idea, in my mind, is plausible. Yes. I think it would involve China. It would involve an attempt to gain leverage over Western power structures, whether they be corporate, banking, political in nature, military potentially. How do you gain leverage over people? You exploit their vices. You exploit their vices, you get evidence of them. You make sure not to fuck them over directly, though. You don't want to just rip the power structure apart. What you want is influence over it. China's have been doing this for years. If I had to guess, I'd say they were the ones responsible. Assuming that this is true, and it's plausible. The MSM won't even investigate. They didn't want to touch the Epstein story, now did they? And, he's being openly invoked by Lin Wood. That being said, he's saying, I have these encrypted files, I can prove it. Why don't you dump the files then? Or why don't you handing it off to law enforcement obviously isn't going to work, but if you had encrypted files, if it has something criminal on it, then you're breaking the law by not handing it off to law enforcement. If it doesn't have anything illegal on it, there's literally no reason to dump it right fucking now. And what we've seen before is that you've got these situations where you've got fishy business, you got shenanigans going on, everyone knows that there's weird shit going on with Epstein, with the honk totally appropriate and above board and perfect election and everything else. We already know that. But every time someone says, well, I can prove it, I've got evidence, it's a nothing burger. It's a dud. And not just because, well, the MSM won't report on it. It's I have secret files, but then they dump it and it's something that was on WikiLeaks 2 years ago. Or they dump files and it's a hodgepodge of stuff from the deep web or something. That was already accessible, or it's nothing, and they never pony it up. It's sort of like, Tom Arnold. Shoe is on the other foot. We're going to talk about the left doing this. Tom Arnold, Roseanne Barr and so forth, claims that he's personally got a copy of the Trump piss tape. The tape where he has Russian hookers pissing on the Obama's bed. Well, the tape doesn't exist. Tom Arnold says, well, it's getting threats, so I'm not going to put the tape out there. Trust me, if he had it, the best goddamn way for him to get all sorts of kudos from the establishment, get another 15 minutes of fame, he'd probably have fucking movie deals and shit, a book deal. Hey, I have the tape. Here it is. Slap it on YouTube. Oh man, it would have been the bombshell of all goddamn bombshells. Well, the presidential candidate had Russian hookers piss on the then sitting president's bed because he's a racist and hates him so bad. That would have been solid gold. Tom Arnold would be so famous off that. Hell, he'd put ad revenue on it. I'm sure YouTube wouldn't abuse him because he's a lame streamer. He'd make $1 million just in ad clicks, probably. He'd be rolling in extra dough. But he didn't do it because he doesn't have a tape. When Linwood says, well, I have all of these documents and stuff, but then he just puts out like a couple of infographics, it makes me suspicious that there's actually something there. I'm well aware of the fact that Western politicians, bankers, business people, and so forth have been blackmailed. This has happened before. It's an open secret. It's not even a secret. It's completely out there in the open. We have all sorts of cases, not just from modernity, but from long past. Intrigue and espionage all over the world, not even just in the US, but literally everywhere, of times when people have been compromised. They were caught in a sting operation. They fucked the spy and they divulged a secret. I personally believe that the JFK, RFK, and Marilyn Monroe assassinations, and they were all definitely assassinations of a political nature, have to do with classified information. I personally believe that there's a little bit of a tangled up web there, and the deep state was uncomfortable with the situation. They thought the commies were going to get compromising top secret info, so they fucking killed them. That's what I believe. Linwood, in my opinion, if he's got this material, he needs to divulge it in an easy to understand manner. How long are you sitting on this information for? Saying, well, we can prove that John Roberts is compromised because he was at Epstein Island and he, fucked a kid or something. Okay, I would like to see the evidence. If it is potentially, if you've got like a tape of John Roberts boffing a 12-year-old or something, you need to send it to the police because you've got illicit material there. That's a felony. If it's not criminal, if it's just, this is documents, logs or something, like phone call metadata, if you've got something like that, dump it. Fucking dump it. It's no help to anyone after the 6th anyway, if that's what you're trying to do for political reasons, and Linwood seems political. But, I don't think that the dude's just gone off the deep end, because he seems to be a capable lawyer. Look, he leads Sandman into the fray. He's gotten, I think, 3 settlements now. Sandman's a multimillionaire by now, even if he got lowballed on the settlements. Linwood gets a cut and stuff. He's a competent lawyer. He's a smart dude. He knows what he's doing. He's leading the Rittenhouse case. I personally believe that he'll end up exonerated because self-defense laws do exist. Even when you're clearly exercising your duty to retreat after having committed no actual crime, it's self-explanatory that you have the right to defend yourself against someone who whips out a gun at you and another person trying to beat you to death and take your firearm, presumably to kill you. It's cut and dry. He'll probably win that case as well. But if you're trying to just gain clout on Twitter and put things out there, also, Linwood would need to do that, certainly not on mainline. He'd probably be better off dumping the documents on fucking 4chan. Maybe he will. Maybe in the next 48 hours or so, we're going to see absolute fireworks. I think that the fireworks are going to be essentially Trump and his people trolling everyone on the 6th in various ways, not just in the electoral sense. Honk over the perfectly fair and open and wonderful election with absolutely no problems. Hee hee, YouTube. Don't ban me, bro. For those of you on other platforms, just imagine that I'm wearing a clown nose and some funny hair right now. I mean, I don't think the dude's crazy, but again, when you get these situations, a lot of time it seems like someone is just trying to bluff for political purposes. Like when Tom Arnold says, well, I've got the tape. A lot of liberals will just take it to the bank that that's true. Oh, well, he's got the tape, so I guess that Trump did hire Russian hookers to piss in the Obama's bed. It's a way to fortify the in-crowd. It's not going to change anyone else's mind. Maybe that's what Lin Wood is doing. It's a reasonable enough strategy, but as for those of us who like a little bit more meat on those bones and who are not hyper-partisan and we're not, sitting there with the Gadsden flag body armor at the moment, I would like a little bit more, I think, than that. Everyone knows Epstein didn't kill himself. Everyone knows that there were multiple people compromised and probably blackmailed on his island. Everyone knows China's doing this on a constant basis. When they buy data from Facebook and stuff, what the fuck do you think that they have? They have all sorts of compromising shit on people. It's a way to blackmail Zuckerberg. Yes, Silicon Valley has probably been infiltrated by Chinese communists, as well as other groups also. But that's not highly classified. We all know that that's going on. If you have even slight intelligence, if your IQ is beyond room temperature, you have to know that that happens. Countries spy on one another. They compromise one another's assets. Sometimes they fucking outright kill them. Happens all the time. I would love to know how specifically in this case it's happening, but I've got Twitter bans. It's great, but it doesn't necessarily help in the election sense. That's about all. Peace out.